Okay, so you can see behind me the meat chicken tractor is empty. So yesterday was chicken day, and chicken day is a long day, but it's well worth it. So on chicken day, it starts really early. We're up about 6, getting started, getting everything ready. We like to start at 7. Sometimes we've started earlier, just depends on how hot it's gonna get. And we did all of our chickens, and that was with 2 adults. So me, my husband, our oldest, she was out there helping us, and 2 of our nephews were out there helping us. So we had 3 teenagers and 2 adults, and we got all of them done yesterday. And that was doing a set in the morning, got too hot, and actually we ran out of room in the cooler anyway. So we decided to stop midday because it was too hot. We got all of those packed up, put in the freezer, and then later, yesterday in the afternoon when it cooled down, we started on the second round. So we did get them all processed, and as you can see, it's empty. I'm really tired, so for the rest of the day, I'm chilling out. I'm in my garden. I'm enjoying my squash and peppers and all that good stuff. It kind of sprinkled and rained, and the cloud cover's pretty good, so it's actually not that hot. But you have to do your chickens when you can do them, and that was the only time that everybody was going to be there. So he was off, I've been home, and we had the extra help, so we chose yesterday, and it was time. They were already about 10 weeks old, and a lot of people process them at 8 weeks old. We usually go into the 9th or 10th week. It's a good size for us, and that's just what we've been doing. About the meat chickens on Facebook, so I decided that I'm gonna do a whole video addressing the whole process of the 10 weeks. So in the past 10 weeks, what did we do? What do you do with Cornish Cross meat chickens? Okay, so I got a lot of questions since we first got them, and especially yesterday as I was processing them, just a ton of messages and questions on Facebook. So I was like, hey, if they have these questions, I bet a lot of people do, and so I'm just gonna make a whole video on it. So that's what we're gonna do. Okay, so I've had lots of questions about chickens and chicks, so let's go through this. First, do not order chicks and not have all the supplies you need. Okay, so if you order from Tractor Supply or you go to a local feed store, they are going to do the job and say, hey, do you have a brooder, which is what this feeding or watering trough is serving as? Do you have a waterer? Do you have a feeder? Do you have a light? They're going to get you set up, and so you're going to be okay there. And then do you have bedding for them? If you order chicks online, all you're going to get is your chicks. And so if chicks show up, and when you order chicks, you have to go get them that day. Okay, they do not need to sit at the post office. So as soon as the post office calls you and says, hey, your chicks are in, you have to go get them. And then when you come back home, you need to have all this already set up. You need to have the light on, and you need to have it having the place warm. Chicks like it super warm. Okay, so they are not happy if they are cold. So let's talk about this. This is actually a trough that we use outside for water. We collect rainwater in it. We were redoing the porch, and so the water was gone out of it, and it has been the most awesome brooder we have ever used. We have done brooders outside. My husband even made a huge fancy box brooder that we ended up not even liking after we made it. I have used a bathtub before. I have used plastic rubber totes before. I have to say this has been the best one. You need to have circular edges on your brooder, because when you have a square, they like to bunch up. Like I said, they don't like being cold. Okay, so they separated just a minute ago, and they were all over the water and the feeder, and so now they bunched back up under this light, and they're trying to get back warm again. And I'll discuss why it's kind of chilly in here in a second. So they're trying to get warm again, and what they will do is they will do that in a corner of a box, and you will end up with squished chicks. They don't mean to do it, but they squish each other. So if they don't straighten up in a minute, I'll actually separate them a little bit. So make sure it's got rounded sides, and that just reduces
the time that they will actually squish each other. Sometimes it happens. I mean, you can have a whole circular brooder and like a toad or something, and it'll still happen. I prefer cedar shavings. Some people will tell you not to do that. I've never had a problem with it with ducks, chicks, or quail. So I prefer the cedar shavings because they stink. Be prepared that animals are animals. They poop and it stinks. So we do what's called a deep bedding method. So we had a layer when they first started, and then it gets replaced either twice or once a day. As they get older, it gets replaced twice a day. At first, you're okay when they're smaller that you can just replace it once. But now we're at the stage where we have to replace it twice a day. When I say replace it for a deep bedding method, is we just put another layer on there. And so this thing, it just keeps raising, okay? So it gets another layer of shavings, and then when we come back in and they're stinky again, we'll put another layer of shavings. So when this thing is done, it's going to be full of shavings that are covered in chicken manure, pretty much. And so that'll all go into the compost. So you're not wasting that. You don't want to throw that out. You want to put that in your compost. And you need to research composting and make sure you have the right ratio of everything needed in your compost. Going back to the stink, they smell horrible, especially meat chickens, which is what these are. These are a Cornish Cross. Okay, I'm really bad about calling them a Cornish Crocs, and I think that's just because I think they go in the crock pot. But these are not egg layers. These are meat chickens. I do not suggest getting meat chickens until you have had a run of egg layers, and that way you know all the stages and stuff of chicken life, because meat chickens are much different. These are going to be ready in 8 to 9 weeks. Okay, they grow super fast, and you have to be prepared for that, and kind of know what you're doing and talk to people who've had them. When you get chicks, like I said, they're gonna smell. Baby ducks smell awful. So just be prepared that you have a ventilated area, and that's why it's a little chilly in here, is because the window's been open, and the temperature dropped last night, so it's a little chillier than normal. But they are going to smell, so you need to be able to open up the area and let it vent out. Okay. Baby ducks, I've been super successful actually putting them in our ceramic shower, and that way I could just wash it out and it's done. The cleanup is done. So I don't get shavings from baby ducks because it's just a mess, and their poop is like a whole different level. It's just like wet and stuff. So we just have a hookup where we can hook up a light, and it's not going to burn down our house or anything. You know, it's secure and they're okay. And then I just wash out the shower. So we're blessed to have a shower like that. It's just a walk in that's easy. Let's see what else. If they chirp, see how they're kind of quiet right now, then they're happy. If they are chirping and chirping, then they are thirsty, or they are hungry, or they are cold. Okay. If once they're satisfied, you don't hear them. If there's one that just keeps chirping and keeps chirping and keeps chirping, I check on them. There's probably something wrong with it. Let's see. I can't think of anything else besides what's common issues. Oh, how we get our chicks. These were actually mailed to us. We've done that before several times. We do not like doing that because we lose more chicks that way. We end up not having such a success rate with our chicks. We've lost 4 already out of, you order 40 and they give you 2 free all the time because they know that some of them won't make it. So we lost the 2 they gave us, and we lost 2 more. So we ended up with, now we have 38. Most of the time we go to Tractor Supply, which normally they're really bad at prices for most things. Our local guy's a lot better. But when Tractor Supply has their chick days, it is better to actually wait, because nobody wants to meet chickens then. Around here, they don't really know what to do with them. So they can sit there for a week and a half, and then Tractor Supply is ready to give them away, and we get them for like $1. Sometimes you can get them even cheaper than that. And we wait, and so they've raised them for a week or 2. Well, Cornish Crosses grow so fast that they've already fed them for a week or 2, so it saves us money on feed. Because when you buy a meat chicken, you better have the means to feed them, because that's all they do is eat and eat and eat. So we actually prefer to just wait it out at Tractor Supply, go get them there, and bring them home. They've already gone through the fluff ball stage, like the really tiny, cute stage, and so the ones that are alive are going to stay alive. Now, when we order them in the mail, like we had to this set, because nobody had them. I don't know if everybody put a run on them or what, but no one had them when it was our normal time to get them, so we're a little bit behind. And we had to order them, and these came in the mail. Like I said, I do not suggest starting with meat chickens because they do grow so fast. So your learning curve has to, go with that. You have to be prepared to process all of them, especially the Cornish crosses. We had one year that we waited till they were 12. Some of them were 12 weeks old. Some of them even got to 15 weeks old, which is really late for this breed. But ours were absolutely healthy, because once we get them outside, we get them in a chicken tractor and we move them. And then when they're old enough and we don't have to worry about the predators during the day, we prop the tractor open and they were just able to free range, and they were walking just fine. They were eating. It was fine. This breed gets a lot of bad rap sometimes about not being healthy, not being okay, but I really think that's a lot to do with the breed, or who is taking care of them, if that makes sense. You'll see that this light is red because it is the heat light. So, and see, they're just kind of happy right now. Now, once they get warmer, they'll like split apart a little bit, and we don't have to worry about any of them getting squished. They're a lot bigger right now too. So, it's a serious problem when they're just tiny and they just get on top of each other.
But learned that the proper way to set up your brooder, okay, you've learned they're very stinky. So what happens when you need to kind of adjust them to outside? Well, we are blessed that we have a old greenhouse that we can kind of dual purpose as kind of a little in-between brooder between outside and inside. Another thing that I mentioned is they grow super fast. Okay, so Cornish Cross are ready in 10 weeks. If you have been raising egg layers, you know they're not a full-grown bird until a year. So that's going to be an eye-opener if you have not done Cornish Cross before, is that they grow so fast it will blow your mind. You're just like, how? And they eat so much. So make sure that you have a way to transition them from inside to outside. And you can either have a designated place outside, like we do with the greenhouse, like the old greenhouse, and we just make it work for us, for the chickens. So if you have an area that might work for that, that'd be great, where you can kind of introduce them to outside and they're still safe. That's the main thing. When you move them outside, you want them to be safe from predators and from the weather. Or you can use a smaller chicken tractor, okay? So we had too many. They wouldn't fit in our small chicken tractors without having to have two of them out here. So we just kept them in the greenhouse. Now, once they're bigger, we move them to this big one out here. And so then I'll show you how we move those. Alright, so the chickens are headed to the chicken tractor all the way down there. Alright. So it's been about a week since we took the Cornish Cross out of the greenhouse hoop, and now we have had to put them back in. So me and my oldest and I just loaded all of them up and brought them back up here because it's supposed to be really cold the next couple of nights, and we actually just lost one last night because they suffocated it because they crowded around it. I'm sure it was just too cold last night, and we didn't realize it was going to get that cold. And that's what happens when you homestead. You make mistakes and you lose, animals sometimes and plants and all of that. And it is disappointing because you've raised it this many weeks and then it's just like it was a waste of your time and your hard work, and you think like, why didn't I know it was going to get that cold? And so it's just a lot of stuff like that, but that's part of it. And I'll raise that wire right there because I don't want them accidentally knocking it over. Definitely, even though there's a nail right there holding it in. We are moving to 2 lamps tonight because it's going to be so cold, and because of that situation last night, we don't want it to happen again. Hey, bud. Did you come to check it out?
No, I thought they didn't want to need the tablet.
Oh, why did I need the tablet?
To make it really look good.
To make a video, of course. Yep, I'm talking about the chickens.
And the other one died last night.
Yeah, one of them died last night. And so the shaving's working out great though. It's nice, it's clean. It'll give them, it's good to walk on. That was the cool thing about the chipper, is it gives those nice small kind of granule ones that is, well, not granule because that'd be smaller, but nice and small kind of chips. And so that's pretty awesome. It just makes it a lot easier for us and the chickens to walk on it. So there you go. What we do is we have a spring set and a fall set. Okay, so the reason we do that, we don't do it in winter and summer. This is why. Spring, the temperatures are good. We can kind of adjust from hot to cold, and we have a lot of days that are in between. They're just right. We don't have to worry about them getting too hot. We don't have to worry about them getting too cold. And of course, that changes every year. So some years we'll have some really cold days. Some years we'll have some really, warm days. And you just adjust for that. Same thing happens in the fall. You have more moderate days. Okay, so you have more days that are good for your chickens and good for you dealing with your chickens, right? In the wintertime, it's too cold. You have to keep them under a light. You have to make sure that they're not freezing out there. They're going to bunch up together because they're cold. And in the summertime, it's just way too hot. I mean, they're burning up out here. You don't want to be out there in the middle of the day. They don't either. And so that's why we do spring sets and fall sets. All right, so we just moved the Cornish Cross from the hoop house back out to the tractor. It's nice and cool, so the air is going to cool them down. They have their water, they have their feed. This is a fresh spot, so I actually poured some on the ground because they will eat some of it. I wouldn't do that if they had already been in here because of the poop on the ground, but because it's fresh, it'll be okay. And you can see they're just kind of lazy birds. There's nothing wrong with that one. If they have their leg out like that, they just lay out. They're known for being lazy, and that's kind of why they get so fat, is because they are just bred to just kind of lay about. I mean, they get up and they eat and they move, but that's about it. They're not going to fly. At this stage, they actually can flap their wings and kind of, hop from here to there and do what I guess would be considered a little bit of flying, but not a whole lot. So, and that right there is exactly why the chicken tractor is built the way it is because that's all they're going to do. So the next step is we're going to move it right here. Then we're going to move it right there and on down the line. Just got done moving the Cornish Cross, and I have a good line to show you now of where they've been. So they actually started out over there, and then we moved them up and we moved them this way. Well, it stormed the other day. They didn't get to stay here very long at all. I think it was like half a day. And the storms came through and we realized that they were just getting drenched. So we had to come out here in the middle of the storm and move them. So here, and you can see squares of pretty much the majority of where they lay, which is usually going to be around the food. And you can see exactly where the water was. So there's the water container because it's still green. And the rest of that's manure. So every little spot, you can see where they were. All these squares. Then here. So this was today. I just moved them today, yesterday, day before, day before, day before. I've consistently moved them since the storms every day. And this ground behind me, this whole area, gets chickens at least twice a year. chicken day this year, the reason I did not record it and the process and everything is we only had that one day to work. It turned out being super hot. I had 2 teenagers who had never done it before, so we were having to stop and teach them at the same time, and we were trying to get all the birds done in one day. So I just did not have time to record. We had to, like I said, work fast. We don't want the chickens to get too hot. We want it moving in a good assembly line. So I apologize for that, but I had to do what I had to do. And so I'm going to try to take you through each part. I have pulled old footage that I've shot before from past, and I'm going to insert that here and try to explain it. So one, you do grab your chicken, you place them inside what's called a killing cone. That kind of sounds to some of you like, ugh, but if you ever research how some chickens are killed, that's actually pretty humane. We turn them upside down and they kind of chill out. Imagine what happens to you when you're turned upside down. It all kind of, the blood rushes to your head, you get a little fainty. So they're kind of out of it a bit and fainty, and we just do an incision there really fast and we let them bleed out. Now, why do we do that instead of just quickly chopping off their heads? If you quickly chop off their heads, their heart stops beating and all that blood stays inside their body. If we do it this way, it all drains out. If you've ever eaten chicken from a fast food place and you've gotten that little stringy dark thing that comes out of the meat, especially the legs and the wings, what that is blood that never got to leave the chicken. Okay, so that can kind of tell you how it was killed also. So this way there's no blood left in the meat when I go to cut it up or process it. So that's the best way to do that. Then we dunk the chicken. We do take off their heads after that. We dunk the chicken in a pot of water that is at 150. So it's 150 degrees, and that is warm enough to soak the feathers and make them loose. And then we do 2 at a time, and we put those 2 chickens in the chicken plucker. And the chicken plucker is a lifesaver. For 2 years I didn't have a chicken plucker because my husband was a cheapo depot, and he wouldn't get me a chicken plucker until we finally got to where we could. And if I remember right, I think it was my Christmas present or something, or Mother's Day present or something like that. Because they are kind of pricey, but they're totally worth it. And once he got it, he was like, oh, I wish I would have done it sooner, because it cuts a lot of time out than hand doing it. And so you cut their feet off before you put them in the chicken plucker, and then it goes through and it does it so fast. And then you have a totally plucked chicken that goes to the processing table. On the processing table, you will take out their crop first, so that's where they store their food. It comes out first, and then you take all of the insides out, and we separate the necks there, and we put them in a separate place. Gizzards get separated, hearts, livers. We keep all those. My family doesn't like livers. We figured that out. I don't like gizzards, and I hate going through that stuff, so I refuse to cook the gizzards. And of course, we don't eat the hearts, but we do save all that stuff for catfish bait. And for fishing bait, we can trade that with other people, or we can use it ourselves. And then the necks we save for dog food. So I just boil them up and then give that meat to the dog. Or a lot of times I'll take a chicken neck and I'll put it in with the soup, because there's nothing but pure meat in there. So as long as you take the time to get the bone out, it's fine. It's all right. After that, then we put them in a big huge garbage can that is full of cold water. They have to soak in that water for a little while, and that gets all the yucky off of them. If there's any blood that was left from the inside, kind of all those juices, it cleans that out. They sit in it, and then they go into a cooler of ice water, like super cold water, and they chill, and they sit there and chill for a while. Then we put them in we inspect them, we get anything that we missed off, we stick them in the shrink wrap bags, and we tie them off with electrical tie and dip it in the boiling water, and it releases all that air and bubbles come up. And when the bubbles stop, I know the bag is ready, and I pull it out and it's shrink wrapped. And then I just put my tape on there with my date, covering up that tiny little hole, and it covers the hole, and it lets me know when the meat was processed, and it goes in the freezer.
So here we just use a rubber tote garbage can, and it holds it to like wash them off so they sit in cool water first before they go into the ice bath. Okay, so here you see my chickens. They're on the ice getting ready to be bagged up here in the kitchen. Yay! Chicken in the freezer, chicken in the freezer. Yep, 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 chicken in the freezer. Okay, I wanted to show y'all what's going on. So the chickens have been on ice, so this water is super, super cold. They go over here, we bag them. Everything's done in the sink, Clorox, everything gets Cloroxed. So Clorox real good, put in a bag. It is sealed with the electrical ties, and this is before they go into the pot, and it's shrink wrapped and then out in the freezer. So we'll do about 9 of them. Get those done because it's just me this time. Normally there's 2 people doing it. So my husband's over here at the sink doing this part. I'm shrink wrapping, labeling. So a lot of stuff got done super earlier. So everything got set out. I've already done labels and stuff just so that I can do it quickly by myself, because the important thing is that these get in the freezer as soon as possible. So that's what we're doing there. And pretty much all it is also an inspection time. So we're going through and making sure we got like all the feathers and stuff off. Like the yellow stuff kind of stays on there. We just cut that off at the end. But all the extra feathers that may have got left that we missed, because everything outside's going real fast too, or we're trying to make it go as fast as possible. So these will go in the freezer in a second. No, these will go in the pot, and then after that they'll go in the freezer. Okay, so what I have to do now is poke a hole right here into the bag before I stick it into the pot. So you just take it and real fast like that. And then I get my heat glove, thanks to my mom. That was a present to Coral one Christmas. And then I will show you what it's like to put it in the pot and stuff. And look how fitting. Chicken Day and Joel Salatin. That's what I'm talking about. It actually was unintentional and it just popped up. So I thought it was funny. Okay, so now that these are ready, we need to get them in the freezer. So there's 9 of these, so we're just doing it as fast as we can. Okay, so all the chickens are in the freezer now. So this is just your kind of standard ice chest freezer that's, out in our shed, and it's full of chickens now. So this becomes our main meat freezer when we get the chickens in, and so this is going to give us food. Oh, I just realized I didn't cut the tabs off of these, but it'll be okay. It doesn't really matter. So here's some food security for the next couple of months until we do our fall set. All of these are going to be ours. We take care of ourselves first, make sure we have enough for ourselves, and then in the fall, that's usually when we get our extras that we can either give away to someone who needs it. We can make trades. I mentioned that before in the other video. And so I know that all 6'3" 20s are ours to keep. And next fall, count those up. I know how many we have. Calculate those, like 1 chicken per week. And then in the fall, then I can count up how many extras we'll have. So pretty excited about this. And proud. It was a long, tired day, early morning, but it's done, and this gives me peace because I know that I have food in the freezer and it'll be okay. So.
Alright guys, so that is the Cornish Cross journey for if you did it for 10 weeks. All the stuff you need to know, what you need to do. I hope you enjoyed that. If you got something out of that and it was helpful, please subscribe to us. We're going to start giving more tips and stuff that we're doing and showing you. We have 2 big projects coming up that I'm pretty excited about. And then just give us a thumbs up. Share. You can share these on Facebook or just message it to somebody. That is extremely helpful and would help us out to reach more people if you want to do that. And if you want to learn more, you can also go to the Wildwood Wonder website. So thanks, guys.